Welcome to another edition of the Recruiting Scoop. I'm Jared Johnson, and Texas Tech signed 17 recruits to their 2025 recruiting class on the early period, the first day of the December signing period, which has become basically National Signing Day for all intents and purposes around the country, including Texas Tech. There were 16 guys that we were expecting for sure that had been commits for a long time. And then Tech got kind of a surprise in Sean Robinson, a tight end / receiver out of Cibolo Steel in the San Antonio area. He visited, Sean Robinson did, 6'3", 215, physical receiver, tight end type. He visited for the West Virginia game. Looked like that visit went really well. So it wasn't a total shock. It was a nice little small surprise to add to Texas Tech's class on Wednesday. But there could be one more, an 18th. Even McGuire mentioned in his press conference that they were looking for an offensive lineman or in talks with the offensive lineman. Mike Roach of 24/7 Sports already wrote a story about Connor Carty, 4-star offensive lineman out of Prosper. Used to be teammates with Ellis Davis, who was another 4-star recruit who signed last year with Texas Tech. They were high school teammates. So Connor Carty's, there's 4 schools in the mix. Texas Tech's one of them. Red Raiders are trying to add him to the class. After I'm done, I'll with a couple of little things, I'll do kind of an overview. But I want to stick with offensive line because that's really what stands out about this class. You signed 5 already on Wednesday. You're going for a 6th offensive lineman. Pardon me. I've been talking a lot to a lot of folks, so my voice is pretty much gone. But I did want to do this video and talk about the class because it is National Signing Day. I know high school recruiting is kind of taking a backseat to the transfer portal and really all sports, but it's still important. You still need kind of a foundation, especially with so many players. They will have 105 roster cap going forward. But you still need a nice foundation through the high school ranks, I believe. That may prove to be wrong, but that's one thing that Texas Tech is still trying to do. Now, it was a smaller class, but the bedrock of it, speaking of foundation, is 5 offensive linemen. That's 3 consecutive classes where Texas Tech has done a good job of adding, a large number of offensive linemen, 4, 4, and 5, maybe 6 now. So that may be off by 1 or 2, but large amounts of large human beings and offensive linemen, and those guys take some time to develop. And I think we'll start seeing some of those younger guys get up and actually play on up the depth chart and play on Saturdays that Texas Tech signed a couple of years ago. McGuire mentioned in his press conference, look, offensive line's where they need to improve. He even mentioned from the previous coaching staff the way they recruited offensive linemen, which I've said a million times, that Matt Wells' staff did a good job upgrading the overall talent on the roster via the transfer portal. But high school offensive lineman recruiting was really just not good. And McGuire's been paying for that. But at some point, this is year 3, season 3, his guys got to start developing, and that excuse runs dry. They have to improve the offensive line. As he said, that's why they're in so many one-score games. They're able to win a lot of those one-score games. But if you want to start really leaning on folks, becoming dominant anyway, then you have to get better up front on the offensive line. Several of the guys that they signed I like. They went out of state for a lot of guys, Nebraska, South Dakota, stuff like that, which is interesting. But one guy I like is, they call him Big E, but Elias Gillen is a rather large human being. You see pictures of him next to like normal human beings. And he's somebody that, he was a great find by James Blanchard in the personnel department. But, he wasn't very highly rated coming out of South Dakota when he was offered by Tech, when he committed to Tech. But once evaluators, like, for example, at 24/7 Sports, are very good recruiting analysts, took a closer look at him, and he went, he shot up the recruiting rankings, and he's just a freak. Was the shot put champion. I think he's good at the discus too, state champion in South Dakota. I think he's going to be a really good player, really good offensive line class. Receiver is really nice as well. Tristan Gentry, 4-star out of Stephenville. I know I'm going to forget some people. Michael Deaver and Leighton Stone here, local guys you kept in town. Deaver is a freak, ran a sub 4.4 for the coaches at a camp. Leighton Stone is a sub 4.5 guy who is highly productive for Friendship. I really like him a lot too. Let's see, Jones, there, I think Frisco Lone Star is a borderline 4-star recruit. Speaking of Jones, Lloyd Jones, your quarterback, coming from a smaller school in Hitchcock, but I really like his film. Big dude, 6'3", 6'4". I really like his escapability, and he has a big arm. So he's coming off an injury, but I like what I've seen from him and his production. Coach's son, which I always like as well, especially at quarterback. So that's good. On defense, you got you did get pretty good defensive lineman, I believe, in Singleton. You watch his film, the dude is an immovable object. He's a gap stuffer. So I really like him. Brock Golis from Flower Mound Marcus. He's played a lot of different positions, very fast, very versatile. He's played safety, played quarterback for them. It's a big program there in the Metroplex. Plays really good competition. Historically, a really good program. So I really like what I've seen from Brock Golis as well. And you have several defensive backs that you added on Wednesday as well. So you have good numbers on offensive line, good numbers at receiver, good numbers in the secondary. Overall, a smaller class, but I really like the group. It finished, to give you an overall wrap on it. Well, not finished, but as of right now, it's ranked 49th in the country, which isn't as good as the first couple of recruiting classes from McGuire, and 9th in the Big 12. I've had so many questions about recruiting dropping off. And listen, the size of the class weighs heavily in determining the overall rankings, how many points you get and all that. So they have 17 commits as opposed to 22 or 25 or 26 or 27. They signed full classes the previous 2 cycles. They got to cut the roster down already to 105. I think McGuire said they're at 123. They're going to bring in some experience. They have to via the transfer portal. He's mentioned 10 as the number, but it could be more when it's all said and done. So, I mean, you got to make the numbers work. You do. It'll be interesting to see how some of the other schools that are signing really large classes, how they do. McGuire even threw out the scenario of signing somebody, then coming in early, and that guy hitting the transfer portal basically because he's cut before his first fall on campus. And that's just insane to me, but I could see it happening. But you look at the average rating per signee for Texas Tech, and it's top 5 in the Big 12. So you're right there competitive. You got to do a good job in the transfer portal. The winter window opens December 9th. I believe it runs through the 28th. Yeah, December 28th. So there's a lot going on. They're not done recruiting. Transfer portal is going to be a big part of it. But in terms of like that foundation, the high school guys, I like this group. Like I said, especially offensive line, receiver, and secondary. I think he did really good. Overall, it's not like a mind-blowing class, but I've found that yes, the recruiting rankings are very important. Generally, that's how it goes by. But sometimes you get a class that's just special that is kind of like this, which I would say, like, according to rankings, is middling. It's not a big class. You don't have like necessarily a bunch of superstars, but you have some solid guys, and it helps in some position groups that you really need to keep adding depth and like throw in there and develop. So overall, I personally am happy with this recruiting class based on those parameters of it was always going to be. McGuire told me 8 months ago it's going to be 16 to 18 guys, and that's what they're at 17 right now. Might at 18. So overall, I would say let's let them percolate a little. Let's let these guys develop. But it's not going to be as good as the biggest homer is going to say, but it's not terrible like some people have said just based on the rankings because of the smaller size of the class. But For now, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.